Money!
Let's talk about money. First, let's define what money or currency is. Well, money is something of value that's exchanged for goods and services. The first instance of money or currency was barter, in which one person would trade something of value to another person for something that they needed, and both parties would benefit. And this went on for thousands of years. Then at about 1200 BC, China began, and several cultures around China as well, began using cowrie shells as currency. At about 1000 BC, China began to create metal imitations of cowrie shells as well as tools and use that as currency. And this eventually developed into the first metal coins. Now, this didn't catch on in Europe until about 500 BC. At about 806 AD, China created the first paper currency. Again, this didn't catch on in Europe for quite some time, and didn't enter popularity until 1661 when Sweden printed the first paper note, or banknote. Interestingly, the first bank wasn't established until 1791, which means that banks have only existed for about 200 years. In 1816, Europe adopted the gold standard, which means that the paper currency that they were printing was representative of stores of gold. For example, this $5 bill would have been worth $5 worth of gold that was stored somewhere. In 1900, the United States followed suit. In 1971, the United States abandoned the gold standard, and Europe followed shortly thereafter. It was at this point that currency became conceptual, which is to say that it only held what value we believed it to. It was entirely based on the human imagination. I'll show you what I mean. Let's look at the $5 bill again. This is worth 5 US dollars, because the government tells us it is, and we believe them. Now this is a $20,000 bill from a board game. It is worth exactly nothing. It's paper and ink. So if I gave this to someone, I could purchase $5 worth of goods and services, because they would believe that this is worth $5. If I gave this to someone, I couldn't purchase anything with it, because they would not believe this was worth anything. However, if I was able to convince that person that this was worth $20,000, it would in fact be worth $20,000, and I would be able to purchase $20,000 worth of goods and services. To look at it from the other side, if I gave this to someone and they didn't believe it was worth anything, it wouldn't be worth anything. I couldn't purchase anything with it. It would just be paper and ink. Because there's no inherent value to paper money. Its value is entirely based on the human imagination, upon the value that we ascribe it. So, I'll give you a real-world example. Between 2009 and 2017, India put out 14 different versions of the 10 rupee coin. Now, this had an interesting effect on the Indian people. They stopped believing in the 10 rupee coin. They wouldn't accept it. And because they stopped believing that the coin had any value, it didn't have any value. It was just a piece of metal. And this really happened. It may still be happening. And the conceptual nature of currency is even more pronounced today, because so much of our money is electronic. It's just numbers flying from one place to another, between one computer and another. You enter information in a computer and the number goes up or goes down. It's no more real than points in a video game. All it would take to end money is for the majority of people to stop believing it. Now, this probably triggers a sense of instinctive dread in a lot of you, because we're used to thinking in terms of currency-based systems. And in those kinds of systems, a devaluation of currency is equated with lost wages and lost jobs. For the transition to work, you have to have a system to replace the old one, which is where the resource-based economy comes in. So here, I'll give you a quick example of the differences between the two systems, using my son's toys. So here you have this guy. Let's say his name is Jim. And Jim wants to build a house. So here's the resources he needs. The lumber, glass, nails, everything he needs to build a house. They're there, that's not an issue. But then, here's money. The third-party gatekeeper that must be satisfied in order for Jim to access the resources. But let's say he satisfies it. He gets the money, maybe he gets a loan, puts himself in debt. But he gets the money, he gets the resources. Now he has to build the house. But he can't do it by himself. So he calls up his friends and his family and says, hey guys, can you help me out with this? And maybe they would like to. Say, they'd like to come over and help him. But here's money. And they say, dude, I'd love to come help you, but I have to work and I have to pick the kids up from daycare. And I can't let you borrow my nail gun because the nails are too expensive. Whatever. I can't help. So Jim turns to his community. And he says, hey guys, is there anyone out there who can help me with this? And maybe they'd like to. Maybe there are people out there who'd love to come help him build his house. But here's money again. They say, dude, I have my own problems. I have to make money for myself to fulfill my own needs, to get what I want, to pay my bills. They can't help him. So Jim's left on his own. So he has no choice but to spend more money, to put himself in more debt in order to hire someone to build his house. And if he doesn't have a lot of money, or if he doesn't have good credit, he's out of luck. Now let's look at things from the resource side. So here's Jim. He wants to buy his house. Here's Jim, I'm sorry. And he wants to build a house. And here are the resources. There's no gatekeeper. Jim can get the resources. So he has everything he needs as far as material. So now he needs to build the house. So he calls up his friends, says, hey guys, can you help me? And maybe they say, okay, so I have to spend a few hours repairing a street or teaching at the school, but after that, I'll be totally free. I'd love to help you. So he has help. But maybe they don't have all the skills or the knowledge to build the house. So Jim turns to his community again. Says, hey, is there anyone out there who can help me? And maybe there's this guy. Let's call him Willard. He likes working with carpentry or maybe electrical systems. And he uses that. He contributes to society by helping people with those things. And he says, sure, I'll come over and help you. So now Jim has all the resources he needs to build his house, and is not a large burden upon anybody. I'll give you an even simpler example. Here's Jim. Jim is starving. He needs food. So here's the food over here. It's there, that's not an issue. The world throws away 1/3 of its food every year, just tosses it in the trash. We have the food. But here's the gatekeeper. Jim can't satisfy the gatekeeper. He doesn't have the money. Jim dies. And that's the system that we live in. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not one of those people who goes around saying money is evil or capitalism is evil. They're not. They're tools. But we've outgrown them. We don't need them anymore. They're like an old car. It served us for a long time and it's done what we needed. But we don't need it anymore. It's running down. It doesn't want to start. It has engine leaks. It has fuel leaks. And we can keep trying to fix it. We can put in parts to replace. We can wrap up the fuel lines with duct tape. But the fact of the matter is, it's just wearing down. And we need to trade it in for a new model before we completely run it into the ground. Now, I want to step away from that analogy for a second and really look at that, because sooner or later, capitalism is going to fail. And for one simple reason, because capitalism is based on infinite growth. It has to continually expand to succeed. And nothing can grow infinitely. Even the universe is going to eventually stop expanding. But we have an opportunity here. We can replace the old system that's wearing down before it completely breaks down and leaves us stranded. We can replace it with a new system that won't have to continually expand, that will be self-sustaining. So we have this chance in front of us to build something better, to replace the old system with a new. We can go out and get that new model. The keys are waiting for us. Let's go get them.